mission answers three questions. Who are we called to? What is their need? And how are we going to meet their need?
Most people, high level, conceptualize like what their values are, but I don't think they've ever really truly made a list. What is important to you?
Surrounding yourself with people who have similar values is really critical to you staying on the pathway to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish.
You're the sum of the five people you hang around with.
People will not change until the pain of change is less than the pain of staying the same.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Will Podcast, where our mission here is to discuss wisdom, inspiration, leadership, and legacy. And today, my guest is John Vick, good friend of mine, mentor. Welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me, Will.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So John Vick, military veteran, pastor, husband, father, grandfather, COO of a local law firm. So you have just a wealth of experience in your life up to this point, and we're probably going to jump around a lot. So hopefully the audience can jump in. I wanted to start with a couple months back, you had asked me if I would be interested in reading a book, Gino Wickham's Traction.
Yes.
And one of the things that stuck out, so I'm familiar with the EOS systems and books, and I love them. And the process, or the part of the process that really kind of resonated with me and stuck with me, was vision.
Yeah.
And when I look at like vision, I think sometimes in the business world is a little easier to define, because you know what you want to accomplish, right? You need clients so you can create revenue, and that's one kind of lower level vision, right? Depending on the type of industry and the type of business that you're in, you're helping people. You want to help grow the community. Our vision here at DeVore Capital is to help enhance communities, help people become the best version of themselves in whatever it is that they're doing. We want to help protect their assets, all these, different things that we want to do. But the core of that for us is we need to know our personal vision, right? So who are you as a person? And
so you're talking about individually the players within
correct
the company.
When I see men and women, in the church or out of the church, just a lot of people just don't know where they're going, right? Because they can't see it. Right. So what is vision? Right. Vision is what you see and how you see it. And it's hard for people to kind of achieve any level of success, depending on how you want to define that word, whether it's in your spiritual journey, in the business world, to be a better father, to be a better wife, to be a better parent. Is sometimes we're trying to step into territory that we've never been in before. So it's hard to see.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll get into that a little bit more later, but who are you? That's what I want to know.
So, when you talk about vision, I've done a lot in the areas of mission, vision, values, the kind of the key three things that you're looking for, and kind of usually helping people kind of to figure out what those things are for them individually, and what they're trying to accomplish. And, I think that, when I look at who I am, because I believe that whether you're in the law firm or whether you're in the military or you're in the church or you're in your home, that who you are, it should be the same, no matter where you're at.
Right.
So you have a set of strengths,
yep.
And those strengths will come out in the home.
Mm-hmm.
They will come out at work. They will come out at the church. They'll come out in, your pickup soccer game. What your skill sets are, what your strengths are, those things will come out. And so if I were to look at and say, okay, who am I? I know that I'm a teacher. Mm-hmm. I know that I'm an analytical thinker. That's who I am. And so when I step into a space, I'm probably not going to be the first one to say, hey, this needs to happen, because a lot of times it's just, I need to see what's going on, because, I have the opinion that until you know what's going on, you can't fix what's going on.
Okay.
And so I would say that, kind of the coach, the analyst, and probably what I've been relegated to in most cases in my life is someone who steps in to repair, to kind of see an issue and right the ship, and to get it to a place where hopefully it's healthier,
Mm-hmm. So. No, I see that. And that's definitely a special gift that a lot of people don't have, right? So to be able to, and so just share a story. So I had a situation going on in my life a couple of weeks ago, which I reached out to you for.
Right.
And it's a blessing to be able to talk to someone where, kind of personal opinion and personal agenda doesn't come into the equation.
Right.
And I could see that you were looking at it from a place, okay, what is what Will is communicating the actual problem, or is it something deeper?
Yeah.
Right? Because we can address what's being communicated, but that might not actually be the issue. That just might be how it's resonating, right? So then you offered some great advice. You said, okay, write a letter to respond to the situation, but don't send it to the other parties involved.
Right.
Send it to me.
Right.
Send it to me. And even then, once you got that, it was still, your response back was, this is very well written, but I don't think it builds a bridge.
Right.
Right. So me, in my human angry state, was like, well, I didn't break the bridge.
And I wasn't looking to build it. I was looking to burn it down.
Yeah, let's just jump into it.
Yeah.
So to have someone that can look things from an analytical standpoint, remove the emotion, whether it's, in the business and church and homes and families and men's lives, right? I think that is so key. So what I've come to realize here more recently than any other kind of point in my life was my opinion really has little value. Right. Not to say that my experience doesn't have value, but my opinion has little value, so I try to approach each person and each problem, whether it's in business or it's in ministry, from what does the scripture say? Because I firmly believe that the answer to every solution is written inside of that book, is definitely written inside of that book. So how did you go from... well, let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
So, you're a pastor of a church.
Yep.
Then you helped. You went to an organization to help plant churches for a period of time.
Yeah. Well, I went to help plant a church outside of, or in Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we just actually had a gentleman on the show a couple of weeks ago who's in the process of planting a church here locally, and. Like I know it's been a couple of days ago, but what advice would you offer to someone from the vision standpoint, and how should they approach planting a church? Because that's not an easy task. I would venture to say that planting a church is way more difficult than starting a business.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, with planting a church, as backwards as this may seem, I would actually kind of recommend, believe it or not, that somebody start at the mission level.
Okay.
Because as we walk people through this process, mission answers three questions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Who are we called to?
Right.
What is their need?
Yep.
And how are we going to meet their need?
Sure.
And so if you don't know who you're called to, it's kind of hard to see a picture of where you see yourself
Yep.
down the road and what that looks like. In fact, in a church type setting, it would almost be counterproductive to say, I can see us in this kind of space and we're doing these kind of things when you don't know the who that you're called to.
Sure.
You know? And, we used to do a church planning boot camp in the denomination that I was in years ago. And we would travel around and we'd gather, couples together that had a desire to plant churches. And we would look at it and say, okay, and we would take them to this boot camp where they would discover what their vision is, be able to articulate it, their mission and their values. And really cool exercises to get them thinking in that space about, okay, what do I feel like I'm called to do? But what I recognize when it comes to church planning is that there's got to be a burden there,
Sure.
And typically it's easier to define what that burden is. I just feel called to the people who are struggling in homelessness, or I feel called to, I just feel burdened by the young adults in this generation of young adults, or this generation of children, or this generation of single moms, or things like that. That's kind of because I'm passionate about this, because I have I feel like God's given me a burden for this.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the who. What are their needs?
Yeah.
And then how can I meet those needs?
I'm Scott DeVore with DeVore Capital Contracting, multi-service licensed construction company. We are a certified roofing and general contractor. We do everything from residential to commercial roofing and all other construction services. If you are a homeowner or a commercial building owner and you have any roofing needs, from repairs to replacements to tarping, please reach out to us at 844-4DeVore or at the link below.
And then I think from that, then you could say, okay, I'd love to see us 5 years from now, 10 years from now, be able to be doing these things for this group of people, So and then the values come in to say, this is our boundaries. We're not going to go outside of what our values are as we seek to meet the needs for this group of people.
Right.
And yes, we want to get here, but we're not going to go outside of our boundaries for a shortcut or for anything else.
Right.
We're going to stay inside of our values, and we believe that God has given us this vision, and that's where we're headed.
Yeah, because no matter what you're doing, you only have so much time and so many resources.
Right.
So having a clear, defined mission, vision, and values in order to execute that,
Right.
Your probability of successfully completing your mission is much higher.
Well,
instead of trying to be all things to everyone.
And we need most things we can't accomplish on our own.
Right.
Most things we need to develop a team, and we need to have some people who are willing to go along with us. And in order to be able to articulate that, you got to know who you're called to, where you're going.
Yeah.
I think I shared this with you, a long time ago. Somebody told me, if you want to know if you're a leader or not, go for a walk and turn around and see if anybody's following you.
Right. Then you'll know.
Then you'll know.
Then you'll absolutely know, right? Because are you aligning yourself with people that are in unity with the mission, the vision, and the values?
That's right.
And I think you have to know that.
Yeah.
And that's whether you're church planting or running an organization, running a business.
Well, and that's the reason why. You brought up Wickham's book, Traction, and one of the first things he jumps into is having an understand of what your values are,
right.
And the way that he approaches that topic, I think, is a really cool way to approach it, and that is to determine if you're putting the right people along beside you.
Right.
So I thought that was a really cool way to approach that topic, and why a lot of startups, whether it's business or churches, the reason that for the most of their struggles within the first year to 2 years is going to be having the right people alongside of them.
Sure, absolutely. And you see that, and you need that. We talked a few weeks ago at a men's breakfast. Whether you want to use coach, mentor, disciple maker, whatever phrase you want to use for it. Like, you need to have somebody who's a little further along.
Yeah.
And then subsequently, in order for you to grow, you need to have somebody who's not as far along as you, right? So when we have that teacher student relationship in every aspect of our life, then I think we're constantly moving forward in our life, in our business, in our in our church, in our walk. But when we don't have that, when we don't have the people that are in alignment with our mission or our vision, it's going to be harder. And
it's nobody's fault, right? You're just slightly going in different directions, and eventually that will start pulling, and either they will pull you more towards you going along with their, vision, or you'll pull them, or you'll just kind of pull apart.
Yeah. Well, and it's too, and I don't want to be confused with saying to have people that are in alignment that are 100% going to agree all the time, right? You don't want to surround yourself with a bunch of yes men, right? If you're caught up in bounds of addiction, you don't want to have.
You do, but it's not going to produce anything
exactly.
healthy.
It's not fruitful,
right?
Like when I was, when I quit drinking alcohol, like it would have done me little good in my life to have surrounded myself with people who were still drinking alcohol, right? When I had came to the stance that, okay, this needs to stop, then those people that were around me had to agree on that core issue in my life, because that was my mission at the time. Like, there was no compromise in that, right? It wasn't like, you can have a little bit on Tuesday, but just don't do it on Sunday, right?
One a day.
Yep, there was no compromise in that mission.
Right.
And so that was a non-negotiable, right? So,
well, and the thing about when you use terminologies like mission, vision, values, whether it's in the church setting or whether it's in business setting, or even in a home setting, is sometimes it's semantics, right?
Yeah.
Because I look at that, and what I say is, your mission didn't change, your values changed.
Right.
You determined that this is now you being sober became a value that you weren't willing to jeopardize anymore. That in order for you to be a healthy partner, in order for you to be a healthy follower of Christ, in order for you to be a healthy father, no matter what it was, you knew that it could not include alcohol anymore because of you'd seen the destructive forces of that in your own life. Mm-hmm. And so that your value changed to say, okay, that's not something a boundary I'm willing to go outside of anymore. And surrounding yourself with people with similar values, is why when we're giving counseling to couples who are either going to get married or recently married, we talk about the importance of surrounding themselves with people who have common values. Because if you're in a church, if you're connected with a group of believers, they're more likely to say, hey, I know you're having an issue. Let me pray with you. How can you work on that? Maybe there's a communication thing that we can figure out for you. Whereas if you're somebody that doesn't have those same values, they may be like, you need to drop this person because, they're weighing you down, And so surrounding yourself with people who have similar values is really critical to you staying on the pathway to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And not to go too deep in it, but in the firm that you work for specializes in family law. Primarily. And, so there's unfortunately, when couples get to your office it's kind of too late. Right. The reconciliation process has been passed. Right. So assuming that if people more consistently had aligned themselves with people that had similar values, that were looking to accomplish a mission and a vision, the success rate in marriages today would probably increase. Is that a safe bet?
Yeah, and I do want to say that it's never too late, right?
Sure, absolutely.
We know that.
Yep.
I mean, I don't care how far along the process you are.
Yep.
It's never too late. Yep. But depending on how far down the road you are, depends on what's going to be required to fix it.
Right. Might be harder to fix.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely fixable.
I mean, if I meet you in the business world, then you're probably at a place where it's going to take a lot of work. And it's going to take two people who are interested in putting in the work.
Right.
Yep. Whereas if I meet you in a counseling session, there's probably a lot less work because you've already demonstrated a desire to communicate.
Yep.
Which is usually something that by the time I see them in the business world, communication has been out the window for some period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. I had the honor to marry a few young couples.
Yeah.
In the last 12 months or so, and one of the requirements that I had to officiate their wedding was we were going to sit down 12, 14 weeks and go through some premarital stuff.
Right.
And that doesn't happen too often. Me and my wife didn't have anything like that.
Yeah.
And the lumps that we took the first 4 or 5 years of marriage were definitely a byproduct of not sitting down with someone who had been married for a while, had some wisdom to impart upon us. Like here's some values that y'all need to figure out what they're going to be. How are you going to raise children? What's the school system going to look like? What are you going to do with your finances? Right? Have all of these things that for many people, they kind of have their habits, and it's like, oh, I like you, you're cute, so let's go get married.
Right.
But our values, we don't even know what they are.
Yeah.
And then subsequently, you see a 50+% divorce rate because those difficult questions in the beginning of a relationship become full-scale arguments a couple years into marriage, right?
Well, and if we kind of want to, settle in on marriages for a minute, there's a couple of things that really drive the percentage ever climbing higher of marriages that end in divorce. One is, like you said, that they haven't discussed those things ahead of time to have a similar pathway that they're on. That they get into a relationship and they find out beyond the attraction that they have, that there's little depth to the relationship of where they were wanting to be down the road. But another thing that really affects couples today is that, especially with social media being so prevalent, that the humanist side of so much that you hear is you make yourself happy. Yeah. Whatever you have to do, if this person's not making you happy, you need to move on so you could be happy. And, and they're just kind of throwing this idea of the grass is greener, sure. And you need to get out of this. And, I did a wedding not too long ago, and, I shared as a part of the ceremony that, 1 Corinthians 13 obviously gives us this description of what love is. Start with verse 4. Love is patient and it's kind, and does not provoke the other to wrong, and is not easily provoked, and all these things that are a description of what love is. But what I was sharing in the ceremony is that love is kind of a tricky word, because in America you say love, it's like, I love Doritos.
Yeah.
I loved that movie. And what I shared in the ceremony was, the Greeks have kind of split this out into this. There's a lot of different words for love.
Yep.
And mostly when people get into a new relationship and maybe even into marriage, it's that eros.
Yep.
It's the we have this passion, we have this attraction, we have this connection, and that is definitely a part of relationships.
Yep.
That you're attracted to each other. There's a passion there, things like that. But another word for love is philia, which is this friendship. Understanding that friendship is a love. And stratego, which is a familial type of love,
Yep.
And agape, which is this sacrificial love, and I think that as couples, it may start at eros, but eros isn't going to have you celebrating your 50th wedding anniversary.
Yeah.
It's got to be multifaceted. There's got to be that philia, that friendship that's there. There's got to be that stratego, which is the hey, this is my family. This is I'm here for my family. But there's got to be the agape that says it may be hard. You say in those vows, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, in good times and bad, they're very quick to say those words, in a ceremony. Let that other person get sick. I'm not talking about they got the cold.
Yeah.
I'm talking about they're struggling with mental illness, or they're dealing with a chronic illness or chronic pain. They can't get out of bed. Those are the times that your love is actually tested. It's not whether you agree on wallpaper.
Yep.
I probably just dated myself a little bit there by saying wallpaper.
I think it's coming back.
Okay, but what are you willing to do?
Right.
I am Will with DCRE, Devore Capital Real Estate. We want to help you with your buying and selling real estate transactions. We know in the economy and the market that we have today, everybody is telling you that it is impossible to buy or to sell. We know that we can get the deal done. Give us a call at 844-4DEVORE or hit the link below. Have a great day.
Not that a movie critic or a recommender of movies, but a very popular movie back in the day was Untouchables with Kevin Costner and Sean Connery. And when Kevin Costner is recruiting Sean Connery said, "What are you willing to do?" And Kevin Costner goes, everything within the limits of the law. And he says, then what are you willing to do?
Right.
And there's a very clutch scene, and Sean Connery has been shot. And if you're watching this and you go, oh, you ruined the movie, it's 30 years old. So,
That dropping spoilers.
But Sean Connery's laying there, and Kevin Costner gets to him kind of in his last breath, and Sean Connery reaches up and he says, what are you willing to do?
Yeah.
And so, and I think that you hit those places in marriages where, the question is, what are you willing to do? You know, are you willing to stick it out through these things? You know, when he loses the job, and because he lost the job, and guys draw a lot of their identity with what they do, you know, and when you, as a man, when it's pounded in you that you're supposed to be a provider, you're supposed to be able to create an environment for to protect and to pay for the expenses that happen in a family. And as a guy, when you lose that, you know, it can be devastating.
Sure.
You know, and as a woman, what are you willing to do? Are you willing to, you know, maybe you pick up a part-time job? I mean, what are you willing to do to get this family through this time, you know, and to love each other through this time? And so I think that those are kind of the big struggles is we live in such a time where everything that's being pumped at you is, if it doesn't bring you joy, kick it out. If it's not bringing you happiness, you know, get rid of it. And, you know, the end of that road is loneliness. The end of that road, because what you realize is that there's only one thing that can really bring you joy. Yeah. And that's a relationship with Jesus Christ. Right. You know?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. It's, you know, I love that sacrificial piece, right?
Yeah.
There are things that you'll need to do. And so I look at like who you are as a person, like what your values are, like we said earlier, right? That doesn't change.
Right.
Whether you're at work, whether you're at home, whether you're at church, on the golf course.
Yeah.
Right? If you're living, the buzzword on the internet right now is authenticity. All right. Recently.
Is there any?
Well, and I don't know if there is, because I was watching a video of a gentleman the other day, and he was sharing some stats that Merriam-Webster's website last year in 2023, the most commonly searched word was authentic. Right. So I think there's a desire for people to figure out what is authentic, right? What is authenticity, right? And so if that's the most commonly searched word, I think people are asking themselves the question, am I being authentic? Am I the same person on the golf course that I am at work? Am I the same person in my house that I am at church? Right? And I'm hoping and praying for just a move of God to bring out that authenticity in people, that I don't have to be fake. Right? I can be who I am. I can be who God has created me to be, and continue to walk in that and live it. But knowing that in order to be truly authentic, there's going to be, like, what is your value, right? Is your value to love people unconditionally, right? Is your value to sacrifice for the good of your family, for the good of your church, for the good of his kingdom, for the good of your business, right? Because if you're a sacrificial person, and you want to bring everybody around you up to the next level, as a man, you're going to have to sacrifice. And you're going to have to do things sometimes that don't make you feel good. Example being, my wife, she loves for our grass to be green, right? So in order for the grass in our home to be green, it must be watered. So my sprinkler's broke. I don't care about grass.
Yeah.
I'm okay with concrete. But I had to spend 4 or 5 hours a couple of weeks ago fixing sprinkler heads so we could water the grass.
Right.
So started with 2 that were broken, got them fixed, tested them out, water in the grass. The wife is going to be happy now because the grass is going to be green. And then another one broke. Right. So I'm committed.
Yeah.
Go back to Home Depot again.
Yeah.
Get some more parts. Right. So to make her happy, right? You know, going that analogy, you know, the grass is only going to be green where you water it.
Yeah.
Right. So to make her happy, go back to the store, fixed now the 3rd head. And luckily we're 2 weeks out. Nothing else is broken. So grass is looking good.
Yeah.
And there. And I didn't want to do that. Right. But it was necessary, both literally and kind of metaphorically, that there are times where we're going to need to do things that we don't necessarily want to do because they're important to the people that are important to us, And I think it's hard for especially men, because men identify as the lawyer, the police officer, the construction worker. They identify typically as to what they do.
Yeah, and human doings.
Yeah. And a lot of that, I think, just boils down to really is they kind of can high level conceptualize like what their values are. But I don't think they've ever really truly, most people, and especially men, haven't went down and made a list. Okay, what is important to me? What are my values going to be? How am I going to lead my life first and foremost without compromise?
Right.
And then how do I bring that into my business? And how do I bring that into my family? And how do I bring it into all these other places? And then when you kind of know that, then you can write your personal mission and vision statements. And I think that's important for people to do, because if you don't know where you're going, then how are you going to get there? Right? If you want to get to 50 years of marriage, you need to have some values and you need to have a vision for that. And what am I going to do each and every day to get there?
Yeah.
If you're scaling a business for valuation and you want to turn it over and sell it on the open market for $100 million 10 years from now, what's the vision going to be to get there?
Yeah.
If you're looking to grow in your relationship with Jesus, then what's that mission look like? Is that your vision? What activity are you going to do today? Are you going to get up and pray? Are you going to read your Bible? Are you going to find that disciple maker and be a disciple to somebody? Sounds good, but you got to execute.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the more specific we can get as people as to what our mission, vision, and values look like, the likelihood of success in those areas are much greater, because we can identify them, we can quantify them, and we can put together activities to be able to execute.
Yeah.
It's not just flopping around a canoe without an oar, right? You gotta paddle.
Yeah. When I think about the fact that you said that the kind of the buzzword right now is authenticity. And I would say that probably the word that we grew up on was character.
Yeah.
Because to me that's the way that authenticity is defined.
Sure.
Is what is your character?
Yep.
Because character should be whether the doors are closed or open.
Yep.
You're going to be the same person. And I think finding, there's a really good exercise for understanding what your values are.
Okay.
Because believe it or not, you didn't sit down with a dictionary to determine what your values are. They kind of get baked into you,
right?
Through experiences that you've had and things like that. And so a really good exercise is that sit down on, like a big butcher block piece of paper and just draw a straight, perpendicular line that is your timeline, so from birth to where I am now, and draw hash marks to kind of separate, maybe my preteen years, my teens, high school, college, the military, married, that type of thing, so that you can kind of, as you're looking at the timeline, you could say, okay, this is my preteens, this is my college days, this is the, and then what you do is you take two different color, the way I recommend is you take two different color sticky notes, okay? And then once you have that butcher block, you just set that to the side, and then you're going to take two different colors. Let's say it's green and yellow, and you're just going to think back over your life. And on every green sticky note, you're going to just write every positive experience, memory that you could think of. And so you just start writing them and taking those sticky notes and just kind of putting them off to the side. And whether, hopefully you end up with 15, 20, something, hopefully you're not somebody who's like, nothing ever is good happened to me. That you can think of something in your past that you would qualify as this was a really positive, good experience.
Yep.
And then with the yellow, the other color, you're going to do the same thing with negative things that have happened. And then you're going to take it back to the timeline, and you're going to start putting it on the timeline so that you can kind of see the patterns of your life. And then you're going to start asking yourself, with this experience, what was something that was kind of born out of that? Okay. Because what you may find out is maybe you were a military brat that your parents moved around a lot, and so you were always at a new school, and so you always kind of felt left out. And so let's say you're doing this exercise and you articulate that it was really tough because you were a junior in high school and you got switched to yet again another school. Yeah. You didn't know anybody, and you'd played on the team before, and now you weren't considered for the team. And so what you may realize is that from that birthed a value in you of loyalty, that you won't leave, in the military, leave no man behind. Right. That kind of passion was birthed in you. Yeah. From the fact that you just felt abandoned. Yep. Because you were out there on your own, and so what you do is you begin looking at all the events, good and bad, and saying, is there a verse? Is there a song? Is there something that brings me back to that moment and kind of what that emotion is? And what you do is you kind of end up with a list of maybe 10 or 12 things that you can then have a starting point for. Yep. Okay, these are not only some values that I have in my life, but here's a really good understanding of why those have become values in my life. Yeah. So it's kind of a cool exercise.
I'm Scott DeVore with DeVore Capital. We are a multi-service construction, real estate, and development company. We do services from ground-up development to roofing services to real estate transactions. Reach out to us at 844-4DEVORE or at the website link below.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's similar to we look at one of the hardest things for people to do is to forgive. Yeah. Right. And when you're dealing with, we've all been hurt by somebody at some point in time. Some of us more than others. Yeah. Some of us take the hurt that's been done to us and we lead with that a lot, or we become so guarded that we don't actually live life the way that God has intended for us to live it. Sure. So I'll have people go through and do something similar where it's like, okay, take 0 to 10, and I want you to list out every positive and every negative thing that you can remember. Yep. Right. And then we're going to do 10 to 15 years of age, because you may remember a little more in that block than you did from 0 to 5. Yeah. And then work out to wherever you're at. Then we can kind of go back and say, okay, you're this way today because there was a series of these events that started to form you into someone that, you're either really happy with or you're not happy with at all, right? And it's like, oh, well, I didn't even realize that I was carrying unforgiveness or resentment towards these people for this thing, right? Because I've never really thought about it, right? Things happen and we just keep moving forward. Sure. Or we feel like we're moving forward, but we're really stuck in 1985 because that's when that event happened and we've never dealt with it. Yeah. So you start to see, 10, 15 years removed from a series of events, they're still affecting how you execute your mission, how you define your values today because of things that happened. And especially a lot of us had things that happened to us that we had no control over. Yeah. Right. But what we can control is how we react to them. But understanding what role you played in those things, how you're going to allow them to define you, right? It all kind of correlates with who do you want to be? Yeah. Right. What is the vision for your life? Right. What do you want to be? And I'm not talking health and wealth. I'm not talking prosperity, name it, claim it. But there is something to be said about, okay, this is what I see for my life. This is what I see for my family. This is what I see for the people that I come in contact with. You know, I want to create an environment to where I bring people up. I make people better by me being around them.
Yeah.
And, you know, like that's part of my personal vision. If I'm going to have an opportunity to meet with you once, or I can meet with you, 100 times for the next 10 years, I hope that your life has been blessed by knowing me.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
It's, to be in a place where it's like, I don't need to gain anything. I just want to make people better.
Yeah.
Like that's it. I just want to make people better.
But I think there's a component of that too that says no matter what circumstance or situation a person finds himself in, how can I be an agent to help them, to rise up out of that, but to also approach those situations as saying, I have something that I could learn from this person, to kind of broaden our perspectives, that you may have somebody that seems like their whole life is a mess, but there's an experience there that you could be enriched from, and not seeking just to be known, but to understand and to know,
Yeah, absolutely. And letting go of certain things in life that are bad for you or hard for people, right? Yeah. What do they say? You're the sum of the 5 people you hang around the most.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're aligning yourself with people that have similar mission, vision, values, the likelihood that you will execute your life similarly is much higher. If you have this set of core values and everybody that you're associating with on a regular basis is here, and when I say it, not just in casual encounters, I mean the folks that you're actually doing life with, right? They're just going to bring you down. Right?
Yeah. Well, it's the old thing. If you want to be wise, hang around wise people.
Yeah.
If you want to be rich, hang around rich people.
Right.
Because to your point, it is either going to raise you up or you're going to sink down to the level of the people who are around, which is why when you were talking about earlier and we were talking about that being sober became a core value for you to say, I'm gonna be sober. And you articulated that you recognized that it wouldn't be good to be hanging around people who were still saw drinking as an acceptable part of their lives,
right?
Because you knew that would probably more affect you than it would them.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because it wasn't from a place of judgment.
Right.
Right.
It's a place for self-preservation.
Yeah. It's like, I knew.
Yeah. I can't do it.
I can't.
Yeah. I won't make it.
Right. I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
I won't make it. Because I did not possess.
I'll be in a ditch by Tuesday.
I've been in them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And luckily, by the grace of God, every ditch that I ended up in, I was able to walk away from.
Yeah.
But there was going to come a time where I wasn't going to be able to.
Right.
Right. So it's like, okay, like, no, in order for me to survive, these are the boundaries and the things that I needed to do to be safe and protect myself. And as time has went on, now I do know my values. I do have the boundaries, and I can insert myself for a period of time in situations that 10 years ago I couldn't.
Right.
Right. But now I'm inserting myself in those situations.
You can do triage.
Correct.
Situations.
Yep. I can jump in. I can help. I can be that
You
person.
can't move into that situation for a period of time, but you could step in and for a triage type of situation.
Yeah.
Well, I think that this kind of came to my mind as we were talking about the things that you want to accomplish, need to accomplish. The universal understood you, and there's people who will watch this that want to start a business. There's people who will watch this that want to gather more knowledge, more learning. There will be people who want to get in shape, people who want to lose weight, people who want to get on a budget, people who want to save money, buy a house, things like that. And so I think that getting a good understanding of what your values are, getting that personal vision for you, but then, and this is the toughest thing for all of us is, then comes a thing of discipline.
Yeah.
Will you do the small things consistently to bring about a lasting change?
Yep.
Will you first recognize kind of where your deficiencies are?
Yep.
I was listening to something the other night. I was talking about, it was dealing with time management. And I had instinctively done this with people through the years. But you want to be humbled. Take a appointment calendar page. You can print them off, or pick up a book from, Walmart, Target, whatever, an appointment book where it breaks it down into 15-minute increments.
Yep.
Track a couple of your days, and you'll recognize where you're leaking the time.
Yeah.
That you're like, okay, I've started this project at 8:15, and at like 11 o'clock, you realize you haven't gone far. But if you break it down to 15 minutes increments, you realize, oh, I got this email, and then I had to chase down this, and then, I had to check in with this person. So you kind of set out to accomplish this. It's 3 hours later, it's not accomplished.
Right.
And it's because you could see it. Boom. Where am I losing my time? Or, you picked up your phone buzzed in your pocket, and it was an NFL news update, that the local mighty Jaguars had just signed a player, and then all of a sudden you're on a rabbit trail.
Yeah, I heard Tom Brady's coming out of retirement.
Is that what you heard?
Yeah, that's what I heard. He's going to come play second string quarterback.
Yeah.
But no, you're absolutely right. That's something that we've been talking about here is to take 2 weeks and audit every
Figure
15,
out where you're at.
Yeah, audit every 15 minutes
Whether
of your
that's
time for 2 weeks.
financially.
Yep.
Where's your money? How much money do you actually have coming in, and where's it going?
Right.
You have to write it down. You have to track it and say, where's it coming from, how much is coming in, and where's it going, and how much is going out. Same thing with weight. The first thing I tell people, if you have any interest in losing weight, download an app and just start tracking the calories you're taking in. I'm not even talking about doing anything with it.
Right.
Just track it.
Right.
Because if you're anything like me, I was at 216 pounds in 2014. I was traveling a lot for work at the time, and I was on my way back from South Florida, and I prefer to drive. If it's inside of 6-7 hours, I prefer to drive because I don't like having to get to the airport early, having to stand in line, do as you're told, eat when you want to, when we tell you can eat and stuff like that. So I like to just get in my car and drive. I can listen to audiobooks. I can listen to music and I can turn it off and just kind of think through some things. So I prefer, but I was driving back from South Florida, and I'll never forget it, and I don't know why. I was on my third regular Mountain Dew of the day. Okay. And I glanced down, and if you're listening and not watching this, there's probably about a third of the bottle, a quarter of the bottle left. Okay. And I remember looking at it and going, I don't want to be this guy. And so I didn't finish it. I tossed it in the trash can, and at that time I had no idea what I was going to do. I just knew I didn't want to be that guy. And so what I did is I drank nothing but water for 7 days. That's all I did. I dropped 10 pounds.
Wow.
And then I was like, okay. And then I was like, okay, well then what else? Where else am I missing the mark here? So somebody told me about an app, and there's a lot of them out there, but the one I chose was the Lose It app. So I downloaded the Lose It app, and I just started recording what am I taking in.
Yeah.
And I began realizing that I was making poor decisions.
Right.
That there were better decisions that I could have made. And so I was like, I would much rather have this for 700 calories than to have this for 700 calories.
Right.
This is going to be more, satisfying. This is going to satiate me more. So I lost 50 pounds.
Wow.
So I went from 216 down to 166, and it was nothing that it wasn't like a magic pill. It wasn't. I did not become a lot more active than I had been. It was just, what do I have coming into my body, and what caloric intake should I stay at?
Sure.
Yep. And I did that, and there was success. But that takes it back to the thing of, if you don't know where your time is going, if you don't know where your calories are coming from, if you don't know where your money's going, then you're just going to keep finding yourself at the end of the month with less time than you thought, less money than you thought, more weight than you thought, less impactful moments with your spouse than you thought, less devotional time than you thought, less productivity than you wanted.
Right.
And it's just because you're just a ship with no sail. You're going wherever the currents are taking you. And in order for that to change, you have to open your eyes and say, what is currently going on?
Hope you're enjoying the content. I want to invite you to check out the Free Factor podcast hosted by myself, Scott DeVore, aka Free. I sit down with entrepreneurs, entertainers, musicians, all types of people who are bringing value and education and mindset. So check out the Free Factor podcast at the link below.
I'm one of those people that if I have a weekend that is a weekend of debauchery when it comes to food, that Friday night you ended up having people over and you cooked out and they brought dessert and there was nachos and you just ate and you drank soda and tea. And then the next day you're thinking, okay, this is going to be better. And then you get invited out to a meal and, before you realize that it's Monday morning and you're like, this weekend was not good. I've always been the type of person that I'm going to step on the scale Monday morning.
Sure.
Because I want to know, where am I at?
Right.
How bad is it?
Yeah.
What do I need to do to fix it?
What's the balance?
Most people, what they do is, I'm not going anywhere near the scale.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to see,
because I know
the consequences of their actions.
Right.
They know they feel heavy and they don't want to add on to their depression by actually seeing it in numbers up here. Whereas I've always been the guy, all right, where are we at? Can we fix it? And what are the steps that we're going to need to take to start getting this done?
And with anything, right? If you can kind of identify, okay, I don't want to be this guy anymore, right? But that didn't start necessarily with, okay, I need to lose 57 pounds in the next 3 weeks, right? It was, I need to change. So let me start simple. Let me start creating some disciplines, right? Let me, instead of walking into the 7-Eleven and grabbing 3 Mountain Dews to get through the day, it's like, I'm going to fill up my water bottle before I leave the house.
Well, yeah, and it's the same with you with your road to sobriety.
Yep.
It was less of you saying, this is who I want to be, and it was more of you saying, this is who I don't want to be anymore.
Yep.
You know?
Absolutely.
And there's a guy named, I don't even know if he's still alive. If you are, God bless you. You know, but his name was John Houghton, and I don't know why his mind stuck, because I literally only encountered him at one time, and it was a church leadership summit up in North Carolina, and it was probably the better part of 30 years ago. Okay. And he said something that stuck with me at that meeting, and I've always just kind of carried it, that people will not change until the pain of change is less than the pain of staying the same. You know? And so a lot of times you have people who they say they want to change. But the work that it's going to take, the pain that it's going to bring to make the change is at least viewed as greater than the pain that what you're currently in is bringing you.
Right.
You know? And so a lot of times when you encounter people who have kind of reached, the quote unquote rock bottom, typically they've hit a place where this has cost them a job. It's cost them maybe their family,
freedom,
and they realize it's too painful to stay who I am.
Right.
You know, now no matter what you tell me I have to do, that's going to be less painful than staying
where I'm at.
Where I'm at.
And it's unfortunate that our brains go to that place. To where it's just got to be so terribly, we have to be so terribly miserable in who we've become before we want to change.
Right.
Which is why I think it's so important to have mentors, accountabilities, coaches, people that know who you are and know where you're at, that you're going to listen to, that can help you and hold your hand a little bit. So you don't have to hit. Because that's the thing with the human condition, right? We'll go grab a shovel and we'll make our bottom lower. You know, like, no, I can stick in this one more day. I can stick in this, you know, just, a couple hours longer, but getting to a place to where we have some accountability in all things in our life.
And gosh, we don't want that.
No, don't tell me what to do.
Because what we want to do is we want to convince ourselves that whatever the situation is, we can handle it.
Right.
And you don't want to tell somebody else because they're going to, without bias, be able to look at it and go, no, you don't got this. This is not good. And we want to keep telling ourselves. And the truth is because we still want to continue doing that behavior.
Sure.
And so we're not ready to give up that behavior, whether it's indulging in food or whether it's indulging in alcohol or drugs or whether it's indulging in, being with different partners or whatever it is. We don't want to
scrolling Instagram when I should be working.
Right. We don't want to give up that behavior until all of a sudden you're losing your job because you were spending too much time. Now all of a sudden you're like, I got to change. So yeah. But I was thinking about what you were just saying about having mentors and having accountability. And I was thinking that once again, this is a long time ago. I am old. That they had Promise Keepers back in the in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, and they had this concept that I think is such a valuable concept, and it's kind of what you're talking about. Is have it's not an age thing, but I'm going to say it like that: have one older, one younger, and one your peer. The reason it's described that way is because it assumes that if someone's older, they have more wisdom, or more experience, and if you're younger, you have less of that, But we also know we encounter people who are younger than us that have more experience and more wisdom than us. So it's not truly a older, younger thing. But to your point, finding someone who's a step ahead of you, finding somebody who's a step behind you, and finding somebody who's in lockstep with you, and the way that Coach Bill, I can't remember his last name, but the way that he had presented the concept was you're Paul, you're Barnabas, and you're Timothy. So you want to find, your mentor, somebody who's speaking into you, which you and I've talked about that a little bit. It's not hard to find people to help.
Right.
It's not even that hard to find people who can walk alongside of you.
Right.
It's hard to find people who, number one, have the ability and the experience and the wisdom to speak into you, and number two, to have the availability to speak into you.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately, and no slam against the medium in which we are currently conversing.
Sure.
But people end up having to turn to, podcasts or, authors, and say, oh, well, this is the person who's speaking into you. And, the answer is no, they're not, because they're not seeing your situation. Right. They're not calling out things that they see.
Right.
You're just gathering wisdom and knowledge. Hopefully it becomes wisdom.
Yeah.
You're just gathering knowledge and some tools, but it's not the same as somebody saying, how are you doing? How's your relationship with your wife?
Yeah.
What's your relationship with your kids like?
Right.
Are you indispensable at work? Or are you lazy?
Right.
I mean, nobody who's calling those things out.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's what I learned is there was not going to be a person or a group of people that were going to come beating down my door to show me a better way. I had to humble myself.
Not for free.
Yeah, not for free. You can get on a mailing list and, people are going to reach out to you.
Yeah.
But when I realized that there were people that I had some level of access to, I was in proximity with, that had something that I didn't, and I humbled myself enough to know that I could say, hey, John, this is what I need from you.
Yeah.
Right? And because men, we think weakness is like this terribly, scary word, and we can't admit it. But the reality is I believe that admitting weakness is actually wisdom, because it's like, I don't have this, but I know I need it. So let me go find it.
Yeah.
And I would also kind of reiterate the encouragement that I shared a couple of weeks ago. Like, if you're this guy that's here and you can look around and there's nobody that you're speaking into, that you're helping, that you're discipling, that you're mentoring, that you're coaching, then make yourself available. Go help. Go do that. But yeah, so that's been my encouragement is, if you found yourself at kind of a season in life where you have the wisdom and you have some experience, go find someone, right?
Yeah.
Understanding that there are tons of people, men and women alike, that won't necessarily say, help me, right? So
Yeah.
go find somebody you can be a blessing to, that's,
Yeah.
So,
Well, probably the best definition of ministry is seeing a need and meeting it.
Right. Yeah.
So if you see somebody in need, just reach out and see if you can meet that need. And that is the most basic, but yet most fulfilling level of ministry.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, man. I do appreciate you coming over today.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's been a blessing, and we'll have you back. You can be a regular guest. It's been fun. It's been fun. So thanks for joining us with the Will Podcast. We hope that we were able to impart you with some wisdom, inspiration, leadership, and legacy. I just want to leave you with this bit of encouragement today that you don't have to change everything at once, but you can start with some simple daily disciplines that can help put your life in a better trajectory. And I would encourage you to, if you haven't ever done so, put together your mission, vision, and values for your life. Start working on those, start leading with those, and I believe that you're going to be blessed for it. Take care. Have a great day.